Every great achievement in history has something in common. It didn't begin with certainty, but with belief. Not belief in the outcome, but belief in the person, belief in the potential that hadn't yet been proven, belief in the spark that needed fuel, belief in someone before the world saw their value. We all need someone to believe in us, not because we're weak, but because we're human. Think back to your earliest memory of growth, real growth. Maybe it was the first time a teacher looked you in the eye and said, "I see something in you." Maybe it was a parent, a coach, or even a stranger who simply noticed your effort and gave you a reason to try again. That moment matters more than we realize. Because belief is not about fixing someone. It's not about pushing them towards success. It's about seeing them, really seeing them, and letting them know, I'm with you even when you're not sure you belong here. We are biologically wired to connect. Human beings thrive not just on food and shelter, but on affirmation, on connection, and on trust. When someone believes in us, our brain responds, our posture changes, we risk more, we try harder, we become someone who believes in ourselves. That's not psychological fluff. That's science. Let's go deeper. In schools, in workplaces, in homes, what we find over and over again is this performance often follows belief. Show me a student who consistently fails, and often you'll find a history of being unseen, unheard, and underestimated. But show me a student who blooms in the right environment, and you'll likely find one person, just one, who said, I believe in you. And this applies to all of us at any age. Adults are no different. We carry the weight of self-doubt hidden behind professional titles and adult responsibilities. But underneath that, the child still exists, the one who's still waiting to be seen. Now, here's the truth that changes everything. Belief is transferable. When we take the time to invest belief in someone else, we don't lose anything. In fact, we gain loyalty, trust, and relationships that go far beyond transactions. The best leaders, the best educators, the best parents are not the ones with all the answers. They are the ones who whisper belief into moments of silence. When people feel believed in, they give more than you expect. They push boundaries they once feared. They speak louder, stand taller, and live fuller. And often the belief you give them is returned when you need it most. Because belief is reciprocal. It creates a cycle of growth that never ends. But this also means something very important. We have a responsibility. We cannot sit on the sidelines and hope someone else lifts the people around us. If you've had someone believe in you, pass it on. If you've never had that person, become that person. Because the absence of belief is not neutral. It creates doubt, fear, and hesitation. Belief is not about pretending people are perfect. It's about recognizing that they're worth the effort, even when they stumble. You want to change a life? Don't just offer advice. Offer belief. Don't just tell people what to do. Show them who they are through your eyes. That's how people grow. That's how confidence is built. And that's how we all rise together. Because in the end, belief is more than a word. It's a force. And we all need it, especially when we can't find it in ourselves. 5 keynotes from the speech. Belief fuels human potential before results ever show up. People rise not because they're pushed, but because someone sees their value even when it's still invisible to them. We are biologically wired to respond to belief. Encouragement and support trigger deeper effort, greater confidence, and lasting performance on a neurological level. Belief is often the missing link in education, leadership, and relationships where people fail. A lack of belief is often more to blame than a lack of talent or skill. The act of believing in others is a leadership responsibility. The best leaders create space for people to grow by offering belief, not control. Belief is not a transaction. It's a gift that multiplies. When you believe in others, you give them the strength to believe in themselves, and that belief spreads in ways you may never fully see. Belief fuels human potential before results ever show up. It is one of the most overlooked and yet most powerful forces in the development of people. Too often, we wait for evidence before we offer trust. We wait for someone to prove themselves before we back them. But the truth is, that's not how people grow. People don't become their best selves because someone waited to see the results. They become their best selves because someone believed they could even when there was no result in sight. Human beings operate on more than logic. We are emotional, psychological, and relational. When someone invests belief in us, they are giving us a foundation to stand on that we may not yet have for ourselves. Think about it, the very first steps of learning anything, whether it's walking, reading, or leading, happen before we're good at it. No one is born an expert. No child learns to walk without falling. No leader becomes effective without struggling first. But somewhere in that struggle, if even one person says, I know you can, it changes the direction entirely. That phrase alone can be the fuel that carries someone through the fear, the hesitation, the doubt, and into their potential. When we look at successful people in any field, we often focus on their habits, their discipline, or their skill set. But what we miss is that before any of that was developed, there was often a single moment of belief. Someone who saw them as capable before they had evidence. And that moment, that belief, that's where the real growth started. Belief comes before results, always. You don't get a flower without a seed. You don't get progress without a beginning. And you don't get greatness without someone daring to say, I think you're capable of something more. It's easy to believe in someone who's already successful. It's convenient to back someone after they've proven themselves. But the courage to believe in someone when they are still in the dark, when they are still uncertain, that's a different kind of belief. That kind of belief changes people. It makes them feel seen, valued, and important in ways that no performance review or metric ever could. In education, this is critical. A student who feels like their teacher believes in them will take more risks, engage more deeply, and try longer before giving up, not because they're naturally resilient, but because someone lit the fire of belief before the results showed up. They were told, I see potential, and that gave them a reason to keep going. And the same thing happens in the workplace. An employee who's given trust and support before they've mastered a task will often outperform expectations, not because of pressure, but because of belief. Belief brings out effort, creativity, and courage. And yet, we live in a world that often conditions us to wait. Wait until they meet the standard. Wait until they deliver the results. Wait until they prove their worth. But the irony is that by waiting, we delay the very thing we're hoping to see. People don't blossom in skepticism. They grow in trust. They grow when someone chooses to believe that the seed is enough, that the effort matters, that the path is worthy, even before the finish line is in sight. To believe in someone is to take a risk. It's to say, you may not have all the answers now, but I trust you can find them. It is not blind hope. It's an intentional decision to see someone's future potential as more important than their current performance. And that kind of belief is powerful. It doesn't just change how the other person feels. It changes what they do. It alters their internal voice. It gives them the permission to imagine themselves succeeding, and that imagination is often what leads them to the breakthrough. Belief isn't a reward, it's a starting point. When we use it that way, we change lives. When a leader, a teacher, a parent, or a friend decides to believe in someone before the evidence appears, they're planting the seed of greatness. They're saying, you matter, you are capable, you are worth betting on. And when people hear that, when they feel that, they begin to walk differently. They take on challenges they once feared. They build confidence from the inside out. And eventually the results come, not because we waited for them, but because we believed in someone long before the results ever did. We are biologically wired to respond to belief. This isn't an abstract idea or just motivational language. It's rooted in how the human brain functions. Our minds are deeply sensitive to signals of approval, encouragement, trust, and connection. When someone believes in us, that belief doesn't just sit on the surface as a nice gesture. It triggers a chain reaction inside us. It impacts our hormones, our thought patterns, and even our capacity for growth and performance. Belief from others can literally rewire how we see ourselves, and more importantly, how we act in the world. Human beings are social creatures. From the moment we are born, our brains are tuned to the environment, scanning for cues of safety, connection, and support. When we receive positive reinforcement, when someone expresses belief in us, our brain releases neurochemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. These aren't just feel-good chemicals, they're performance enhancers. Dopamine, for example, motivates us to pursue goals and take risks. Oxytocin builds trust and strengthens relationships. So when someone says, I believe in you, it is more than encouragement, it becomes fuel. That statement activates parts of the brain associated with confidence, motivation, and resilience. This is why belief can have such a profound impact on learning and development. In schools, when a teacher truly believes in a student and the student senses that belief, their brain becomes more open to challenge. They're more likely to persevere through failure, take on difficult tasks, and stay engaged. Not because they suddenly got smarter, but because belief creates a psychological environment of safety and hope. And hope is not a soft word. It is a neurological state where the brain becomes willing to try again despite setbacks. Belief activates that hope. The same thing happens in the workplace. When a manager shows confidence in an employee, not because they've already succeeded, but because they recognize potential, that employee is more likely to perform at a higher level. Not from fear of failure, but from an internalized sense of worth. They want to prove that the belief was well placed. They push themselves not because they're being forced to, but because they feel seen. Their brain associates their effort with significance, and that creates a powerful feedback loop. When belief is present, effort goes up, and when effort goes up, progress follows. The absence of belief also speaks loudly. When people are surrounded by skepticism, when they are only ever questioned, doubted, or micromanaged, their brain enters a different state, one marked by stress, defensiveness, and emotional fatigue. Cortisol, the stress hormone, rises, focus narrows, creativity shuts down. The individual becomes more concerned with survival than growth. And once that mindset takes hold, it's very hard to break out of it, unless someone steps in and offers belief in place of criticism. This is why belief must be intentional. It is not enough to assume people know you support them. You have to say it. You have to show it. Because your belief can be the difference between a person retreating into fear or stepping forward with courage. And it doesn't take a grand speech or dramatic gestures. Sometimes a quiet word at the right moment. I see something in you. You're doing better than you think. I trust you with this can create an internal shift that lasts a lifetime. The brain remembers those moments. It locks them in, and they become anchors for future action. There's also a fascinating truth about mirror neurons in the brain. These are cells that fire when we observe someone else taking action or expressing emotion. In other words, We are wired to pick up on the internal state of others. If you walk into a room confident, calm, and full of belief, the people around you sense it, they mirror it. This is why belief is contagious. When one person carries it, others begin to feel it too. It spreads not just through words, but through presence. It's why great leaders, great teachers, and great parents often lift people around them just by how they carry themselves. They are broadcasting belief through tone, posture, and presence, and others absorb it. People don't just hear belief, they feel it. And when they feel it, they change, they rise, they take ownership of their role, their choices, their growth. They stop holding back, they stop waiting for permission. The brain, which was once cautious, suddenly sees opportunity. And that's the point. When belief enters the system, everything changes. Not because the world changed, but because the person's mind did. And that shift, that mental rewiring, that is where real transformation begins. Belief is often the missing link in education, leadership, and relationships. We spend so much time focusing on tools, strategies, and systems, thinking that if we just optimize the right structure, people will thrive. But structures alone don't build people. Systems don't inspire change. It is belief, real human personal belief, that often creates the space for someone to rise above their limits. Without it, even the best strategies fall flat. You can give someone a perfect curriculum, a world-class job opportunity, or an ideal environment, but if they don't feel believed in, it's unlikely they will fully engage, take risks, or unlock their potential. In education, this plays out every single day. Two students can sit in the same classroom, listen to the same lesson, and work on the same assignment, yet have completely different outcomes. One student may feel empowered, capable, and motivated, while the other feels invisible, discouraged, and checked out. Often the difference isn't intelligence or background, it's belief. The student who feels seen and supported by a teacher who believes in them will take more ownership of their learning. They'll ask questions, make mistakes more freely, and trust themselves enough to grow. The other student, even if they're just as smart, may never reach the same heights because they don't feel that someone is truly in their corner. This isn't about lowering standards or coddling. It's about recognizing that belief is the emotional foundation that supports effort, focus, and resilience. Leadership works the same way. Too many leaders focus only on performance metrics. They manage through pressure, oversight, and outcomes, forgetting that the people they lead are human beings first. And human beings need belief. They need someone to trust them, to back them, to say, you've got this, even if you don't see it yet. When a leader creates that culture, one where belief is present and visible, performance often exceeds expectations. Not because the team is being pushed, but because they feel supported. They feel capable. They feel like their leader sees not just what they do, but who they are becoming. That level of belief unlocks discretionary effort, the kind of energy that goes beyond obligation. People stay late, speak up, solve problems, and go further than they have to because they feel like they matter. In contrast, when belief is absent, even talented people wither. They second guess themselves. They stay quiet in meetings. They look for the bare minimum because they feel like their contributions don't count. It's not a lack of skill that holds them back. It's the emotional void created by the absence of trust. People don't want to work just to survive. They want to work in places where they are believed in, where they are valued not just for what they do, but for what they could become. And this truth extends beyond classrooms and boardrooms. In relationships, friendships, families, partnerships, belief is what binds people together. When someone feels that you believe in them, that you see more in them than just their past or their present struggles, it strengthens the connection. It gives them courage. People open up. They take emotional risks. They grow. But without belief, even the closest relationships can feel hollow. Support that is conditional or transactional doesn't build trust. It builds compliance, and relationships built on compliance don't last. What lasts is the steady, patient presence of belief. Even when someone is going through difficulty, even when they're not at their best, even when they doubt themselves. Belief is not passive. It's not simply thinking good thoughts about someone from a distance. It's active, it's expressed. It shows up in how we listen, how we speak, and how we challenge others with care. It shows up in our tone, our timing, and our willingness to stand beside someone rather than above them. In many ways, belief is the most powerful form of leadership, teaching, or love, because it tells people you don't have to be perfect to be worth investing in. What makes belief so important is that it fills in the gaps that effort and strategy can't always reach. Life is unpredictable. No matter how smart or skilled someone is, they will face moments of doubt, failure, and fear. In those moments, belief becomes the bridge. It carries people through uncertainty. It reminds them that they're not alone. And when that bridge is strong, people keep going. They keep trying. They find their way forward, not because everything is clear, but because someone cared enough to believe even when it wasn't. In the end, the most overlooked factor in any high-performing team, successful classroom, or healthy relationship is almost always the presence of belief. It's quiet but powerful. It doesn't show up on spreadsheets, but it shows up in people's posture, their voice, and their resilience. And if we want to build environments where people don't just survive, but truly thrive, belief cannot be optional. It has to be at the center. The act of believing in others is a leadership responsibility. It's not an optional, feel-good gesture. It's a fundamental part of what it means to lead. Too often, leadership is mistaken for control, monitoring performance, directing actions, and making decisions from above. But real leadership isn't about having all the answers or issuing commands. It's about creating an environment where others can discover their own strength, stretch into their potential, and feel safe enough to grow. That kind of environment doesn't come from authority, it comes from belief. When a leader chooses to believe in someone, they are making a powerful statement. I trust you to take responsibility, to rise, and to figure things out. That belief sends a signal that transforms how people view themselves. Most people don't step up because they're forced to. They step up because someone believes they can. And when people feel that trust, they begin to develop the inner tools that leadership is meant to nurture: confidence, ownership, initiative, and purpose. This is not about being overly optimistic or ignoring people's flaws. It's about seeing beyond what's visible today and holding space for what could be possible tomorrow. That is the true work of leadership, to believe in people not just as they are, but as they could be. Belief is the soil in which accountability grows. When someone feels truly supported by a leader's belief, they don't want to let that leader down, not because of pressure, but because of loyalty. They take ownership not out of fear, but out of pride. They go the extra mile because someone took the time to say, I believe in you. That belief becomes internalized, and soon they begin to believe in themselves. Once that happens, the leader's job shifts. Instead of pushing people, they're now guiding them. Instead of correcting constantly, they're empowering consistently. This shift unlocks higher performance and deeper fulfillment for both the leader and the people they serve. One of the most damaging things a leader can do is withhold belief. When people feel micromanaged or doubted at every turn, their willingness to take initiative disappears. Why take risks when you assume your leader doesn't trust you? Why speak up when you know your ideas won't be taken seriously? In these environments, people shrink. They stop trying, not because they don't care, because the cost of caring becomes too high when belief is absent. On the other hand, when a leader communicates belief, even in small ways, it changes the entire culture. It tells people, I see you, I trust you, I'm here to help you become more. That subtle but powerful message often makes the difference between someone quitting or committing. Leadership through belief also means being willing to invest time and patience. Growth isn't immediate. People don't always respond the first time they're given responsibility or support. But belief means holding space through the process. It means staying present even when progress is slow. It means recognizing that transformation doesn't happen on a schedule. Great leaders understand this. They don't just believe in potential when it's convenient. They believe even when it's difficult. That consistency creates psychological safety. It tells people you're allowed to make mistakes here. You're allowed to be human. And even in your setbacks, I still believe in what you're capable of. One of the most transformative things a leader can do is believe out loud. That means voicing trust in meetings, giving credit generously, acknowledging effort, and showing people that their work matters. It also means being vulnerable enough to say, I believe in you, and I'm still learning how to support you best. Belief doesn't mean perfection. It means presence. It means caring enough to invest attention, encouragement, and honest feedback with the intent of building someone up, not tearing them down. People respond to that. They feel the difference. And when they feel it, they begin to rise. Belief is a form of leadership that doesn't always make headlines, but it builds legacies. It's what people remember long after projects are completed and goals are met. They remember how you made them feel. They remember whether you trusted them. They remember if you stood beside them when they were uncertain. That kind of leadership sticks. It builds loyalty, community, and culture that cannot be bought or forced. It must be earned through the consistent act of believing in others every single day. The act of believing in others is not soft or sentimental. It's strong, strategic, and deeply human. It's how people grow. It's how teams thrive. And it's how real leadership is measured not in power or control, but in the courage to believe in others before they believe in themselves. Belief is not a transaction. It's a gift that multiplies. When you believe in someone, you're not trading that belief for something in return. You're not saying, I'll believe in you if you meet my expectations, or I'll trust you as long as you don't fail. That's not belief, that's negotiation. True belief is given without condition, without a contract, and without a guaranteed outcome. And that's what makes it so powerful. Because when someone receives belief that is freely given, it shifts something inside of them. It creates a sense of value that doesn't depend on performance. It tells them, you matter because of who you are, not just what you do. And once someone feels that, once they experience belief that is pure and intentional, it begins to multiply inside of them and through them. This multiplication is not just emotional, it's behavioral. When someone feels believed in, they become more likely to believe in others. It becomes a chain reaction. They remember what it felt like to be seen, to be supported, to be trusted, and they want to pass that experience on. That's how belief spreads. It moves through families, classrooms, companies, and communities. It builds culture. It changes atmospheres. It transforms relationships. And the remarkable thing is that it doesn't diminish with use. The more belief you give, the more there is to give. The act of pouring belief into others doesn't empty you. It enlarges you because it reminds you of what really matters to you, people, purpose, and the potential that lives in each of us waiting to be called out. Most people go through life carrying silent questions. Am I enough? Do I have what it takes? Does anyone see me? These questions aren't always spoken out loud, but they're there underneath the surface of even the most confident individuals. And belief answers those questions, not with shallow compliments, but with honest, consistent affirmation. Tells people, yes, you are enough.
Yes, I see you.
Yes, you have something unique and valuable to offer. When someone hears that, especially in a moment of doubt, it can change the direction of their entire life. That kind of impact doesn't come from position, power, or money. It comes from presence, from choosing to notice someone, to believe in their growth, and to stand beside them as they move forward. Belief also has the power to revive what's been damaged. Many people carry wounds from past failures, rejection, or criticism. They've been told they're not good enough, smart enough, or strong enough. Those voices echo in their minds and shape their actions. But belief has a way of interrupting those voices. It introduces a new narrative. It gives someone a different lens through which to view themselves. Sometimes, the belief of one person is enough to override years of doubt. It doesn't mean those old ones disappear overnight, but belief gives someone the courage to start healing, to try again, to reach for more. And over time, that belief takes root and bears fruit, not just in that person's performance, but in their identity. There is also something deeply fulfilling about being the person who gives belief. Watching someone rise because you spoke life into them is one of the most rewarding experiences a human being can have. It builds connection, it deepens trust, it makes you more empathetic and aware. And it strengthens your own sense of purpose. When you believe in someone and they begin to believe in themselves, it reinforces the idea that your presence matters. That you're not just here to do tasks or chase achievements, but to make people better, to lift others, to be part of something larger than yourself. Belief multiplies because it speaks to the core of who we are. We are all wired to grow, to stretch, to evolve, but we don't do it in isolation. We need people who will stand in the gap when we're unsure, who will hold the vision when we lose sight of it, who will speak hope when fear takes over. When you choose to be that person for someone else, you're doing more than offering support, you're creating a legacy. Because the person you believe in today may become the person who believes in dozens of others tomorrow. And that ripple effect, once set in motion, can change families, teams, schools, and communities in ways you may never fully see. Belief at its core is a generous act. It says, I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to stand with you because I see something in you. That kind of belief cannot be bought or demanded. It can only be given. And when it is, it multiplies quietly, powerfully, and endlessly.